Good evening, everyone. You can see lots of familiar faces, obviously our members, those who came to our first event, and others we met through other events. And those who are with us for the first time, welcome to the LBCF community. I'm Olga, a director and founder member of the LBCF. I wanted to welcome you all to our second event in the Challenge the Hype series. I'm in this beautiful old building, which is full of history. It's believed to be built in about 12th century and since was destroyed and rebuilt many times. But it's not without the help of developments in new construction materials and also other innovations that we can continue enjoying it. So today we wanted to talk about the innovation, but innovation specifically related to new technologies, and blockchain is one of them. And what we wanted to show you is a couple of projects. Actually, we have 3 projects, really different. And together with you, we wanted to look at these initiatives, fairly young initiatives, to see how actually are they weathering against the reality and how they're coping with all the challenges that are coming. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the MC for our event tonight, which is a fellow founder member and the CEO of Southbox. Please welcome Campbell Murray.
We're going to kick off pretty quickly. As Olga said, we've got 3 very good speakers, followed by a closing presentation as well. So, Tony McGurk is tackling a subject very dear to my heart. He is on a mission to improve the way we manage our circular economy. Essentially, leveraging blockchain technology to drive the circular economy at the consumer level. I think it's a fair way of describing it, Tony. Is that right?
Good evening. My name's Tony McGurk. I work for a company, well, I own a company called CryptoCycle. As you can see, I'm an old school IT guy. I'd like to say this was my first computer, but it's not. It's my second computer. My first computer, this is the advantaged version because it has screens on it. Okay? So, being an old IT guy, I like to keep my disks close to hand. There's a reason for this because I'm going to ask you all a question at the end. So, plastic is the problem I'm going to talk about. This development happened by accident. I went on the course, learned about blockchain, and being an old, cynical, old IT guy, I thought, blockchain. Now that's a solution looking for a problem. And I went away and thought, one day I'll find it. And I happened to be sitting at a meeting with somebody, and they said, we've got this real problem, Tone. What do you think? And I said, blockchain's going to sort that out. So, where I'm coming from, the government are going to bring in what's called a deposit return scheme. So, you will go and buy your bottle of pop. There will be a tax applied to this bottle of pop. If you want your money back, you will have to recycle it. So, at the moment, the tax is probably going to be 10 or 20 pence. Now, you have a choice. You can either throw that in the street, or you can go and recycle it and get your money back. Traditionally, and the way that it works around the world, is that you will take this back to a reverse vending machine, put it in, and it will give you a voucher. Or you will take it back to a store and they will give you a voucher. The issue with that is this is fraud. Okay, and I've got some examples here. In California, they lost $200 million through fraud. In Germany, they recently lost £8 million through fraud. The reason is the reverse vending machines, which are very expensive to build, have lots of technology in them that say, this is a bottle. It has a barcode, so it's a Pepsi bottle. Here is your voucher. So a clever guy in Germany went and opened the back of the machine, took the bottle out and put it in again, and again, and again, and again, until he managed to get himself something like 1.2 million euros. So what we've done is we've developed a system, and we're using blockchain to store a code on every single bottle. So we've had to go to the manufacturers via the government and ask them to put an individual code on every single bottle, and that code is an encrypted code, and that relates directly to a record that we store on the blockchain. So when you take your bottle back, it recognizes that it can only be recycled once. So we developed some unique coding in blockchain, and we've decided to apply this to a reward scheme. Our reward scheme is a way for you to get your money back. So when you take your bottle back to, for instance, Sainsbury's and recycle it, we're going to give you back your 10 pence or your 20 pence, depending on what the government decides, but we're also going to give you back some nectar points because you're a good recycler. If you take it back to Tesco's, you'll get some club card points. The reward scheme has an exchange built on the back of it, which allows you to trade your rewards and your values for other things. That's in development at the moment. We're expecting this to become the UK's largest reward scheme with about 34 million users. Of course, we're also going to build up lots of information about who likes Pepsi, who likes Coke, and that helps to pay for the running of the system. What we've done is we've, as I said, generated a unique code. The bottle can only be recycled once, so there is no incentive for you to just throw it away because you want your money back. We expect, as in other countries, there will be, shall we say, underprivileged people who will go out and try and collect as many bottles as they can and recycle them. We have a version that works for a crypto wallet. We have a version that just dispenses individual vouchers for people. So, what we have is we have the plastic bottle going around the circular economy. We have the financial information being transferred. And finally, we have the data information being transferred. So we have the whole circular economy covered in terms of what we're doing. Now, we've taken out a patent on this, and our patent actually covers containers. So we're not just talking bottles, because the initial version is going to be plastic bottles. The government then wants to move to cans. To give you some idea, the UK processes 22 billion plastic bottles a year. If every bottle has 10p on it, that's 2.2 billion pounds. The reason the DRS scheme is not in place at the moment is the fraud potential on that is so high. It's about 3%. So somebody could, on the old scheme, manage to steal up to 90 million pounds. So if we move forward.
Tony, before you do that, we just talk a little bit about, maybe you're coming up in the slides, that recovery of the money. So the person walks in, hands in the bottle, gets 20 euro cents or 20 pence. How do they get that? Is that in euro token or is that in fiat currency?
Okay, it's in fiat. We've stayed away from crypto because there's no need.
That's why I asked the question.
Okay. Right at the beginning, to blockchain or not to blockchain? ICO is the question. We're talking eco. The last thing we want to do is have millions of computers around the world running, creating lots of power, and completely wiping out all the benefits of recycling the plastic. So we initially said we weren't going to create a coin. We already have a coin. It's called 10 pence. We don't need one. Okay, it's stable. Well, in as much as you can be stable these days. So we stayed away from it. We did think about it. A little bit of our thought processes were coins, gas, nodes. We decided to go down the private blockchain route. So we're a private blockchain, not a public blockchain. Okay, we're using Hyperledger, Fabric. Okay, we know all the nodes in the network. We know all the actors, so we can control everything. The reason for going blockchain was simply because of the advantage it gave us in terms of, if I told you that Coke really hate Pepsi, would you believe me? And that Pepsi live to hate Coke? I've never met two companies like this before. In Scotland, we have AG Bar. Everybody is putting information into this system, but it has to be anonymized, because Pepsi would love to know what Coke are making, and Coke would love to know what Pepsi are making, but we have to make sure they can't see any of it. Our issue is at 22 billion bottles, the last thing you want to do is walk up to a reverse vending machine, put it in, and if we were coin-based, wait 10 minutes for the transaction to be qualified. So we're using proof of authority in Hyperledger so that we can get super fast speeds. We're looking at the moment at around about 3,500 transactions per second. That's what we're working to. Talking to IBM, they think we can go higher. So latency was a big issue for us in terms of what we were up to. We also have to think about regulation. This system is going to be effectively put in place by the government, but run by the industry. So we have to make sure that we cover all the rules off in our system. So our smart contracts have to be watertight, or chain code in the effect of Hyperledger. Just to give you an idea of what's going on, transaction into Composer, onto the blockchain. Our database is our user database, as in your information is not held on the blockchain. It's held in a separate database, GDPR and all that kind of stuff. We have to be careful. But this is what's effectively happening. We're running some chain code, and it's sorting everything out for us. What we're doing, we have a full-size trial going in Scotland in April of next year, and that's a whole town. Many people have tried these reverse vending machines, and you might have seen one in Iceland or Tesco's, and literally you can have 10 bottles in, and you get a voucher, and you can go and spend it in that shop. Obviously, with our system, you're going to get your money back. We need to try that on a full-size town. So we're trying one town in Scotland, one town in England. The Scottish town is, because Scotland is effectively leading this at the moment. I had to put this in, because it always makes me laugh. So next, there we go.
Okay, Tony, thank you very much. Big hand for Tony. So, can I ask the question that I think a lot of people might want to ask, and I'm just second guessing it. So, you've essentially established yourself as a monopoly for this, okay? You've got yourself a non-decentralized infrastructure, which you control on behalf of the industry. The government's endorsing it, the industry's endorsing it. So there's no room for competitors to get in there once you're established.
Until we actually are established, and it's a really interesting business because we have to win the Olympic bid. The day we win the Olympic bid, the company itself is worth about £250 million just in the UK, and the rest, yeah.
The rest.
To give you some idea, as a business, our software was developed from the beginning to be retrofittable to existing schemes, because existing schemes are open to fraud, and we need to close the door on fraud. The UK represents 3% of the market. That's all. In the US, there are 12 states that are using RVMs. In Scandinavia, they use it. In Germany, they use it. So we're hoping that we go backwards into those things. The current thinking is that we may create a not-for-profit.
That's where I was going. Thank you. So we pass this out. I'm sure you've all got lots of questions, because I think it's a subject that everyone really cares about, right? It's a really interesting subject, especially, you know, right now, topically, I mean, the timing's incredible, right? I mean,
yeah.
we're all watching David Attenborough talk about plastic, nanoplastic modules in the oceans. So it's a subject that everyone really cares about, more than possibly ever in your industry.
So my question is, why actually use a blockchain in the first place? Why not a centralized database?
We could have gone down the centralized database route. In truth, the blockchain gives us lots of advantages moving forward. It allows us to explain anonymization of records. It's something that once...
Anonymization of a plastic bottle?
Exactly. If you're Coke, you would love to know how many bottles Pepsi are producing every day.
But your data isn't public, right?
It's not public, but it's in a private blockchain. But we still have all the actors involved.
So just you, no one else knows.
We have the overall view of it. Yeah.
What was the value of the company? 250 billion. You're like, okay.
So a private database, an encrypted database.
We could have gone down that route, but the fact is that we need to run this across many different markets. Believe it or not, when you talk blockchain to people now in government, they want to get involved. Which is why I put this slide up, because you just have to say the magic words, and it's exactly the same in the EU.
So blockchain opens doors. Is the
blockchain is opening doors,
okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Let's move on. Up this side of the room, let's see some hands. Anybody? The back of the room there, let's saw a hand. Right at the back of the room. I saw a hand go up. That's it. There we go.
Hi, thank you. My question is, or rather clarification, did you say that you can redeem coins, or is it just a voucher, or can you do both?
You will redeem the value of your bottle. So the monetary value of that bottle will go to your, effectively your wallet, which will be on your mobile.
What's happening here?
Great presentation. I think I'm just wondering. Obviously, I'm a cryptocurrency fanatic, my wife would say. But I just wonder if it's kind of restricted by just doing it with UK fiat currency. You know, if you're creating this great habit where you're going to recycle your bottles in the UK, and then you go on holiday, and there's nowhere for you to go because you're not going to get a UK currency. Is there an opportunity there to do a cross-border coin or stable coin, or whatever it might be, just take it over?
There are some developments that are coming that I'm not allowed to talk about at the moment, but on the back of the reward scheme, there is a full exchange. So you will be able to effectively collect at other locations and then use that exchange to push things forwards and backwards.
Can I ask one more question as well? Sorry. I'm really conscious about the future where homeless people have got no money to collect because everybody's got the currency on their phone, on their wallet or whatever, there's nothing to give. Are you planning on giving this as a scheme where homeless people can collect bottles and stuff and earn revenues without needing a mobile phone?
Yeah, if you do not collect on your wallet, you will get a voucher. So the machines will spew out vouchers. If you go to a shop, they have an encrypted scanner. They will scan. The way it works at the shop is you walk in with your bottle, they will scan the code, they'll scan your phone, and it will automatically update everything. If you haven't got a phone, they will just give you the money back. They have a retailer has their own wallet. One of the things that we had to be very aware of, we couldn't disadvantage anybody. Okay, so we couldn't disadvantage the retailers by the fact that they were giving out lots of money to people. We couldn't disadvantage homeless. We have a retailer wallet, we have a consumer wallet, and we have a charity wallet. If you want to, you can elect to send your bottle to charity. We believe that there will be things like Saturday morning the local scouts will get together and just clean a town and get the money back.
Back to the good old days of the 80s.
Exactly. There is one other really interesting thing that we're working on at the moment, which is a recycling lottery. If you're a really good recycler, maybe every 10 bottles you'll get a lottery ticket. At the moment, just to give you some figures, 22 billion bottles, 2.2 billion pounds. At the moment, through roadside recycling, we currently recycle 53%. Okay, 53%. We think by using this scheme, we can drive recycling up into the 80s, 90s, high 90s. Because unfortunately, in places like Scandinavia, they have a very high social responsibility. They feel it. Here, we don't. Okay, so we just throw it away. We don't care. And because of that, the reward scheme was grown out the back of that to actually influence people's ideas. So in some places, it's quite interesting actually, because our two test towns couldn't be more different. Okay, one, you go into the shop, you see lots of water. One, you go and you see lots of iron brew.
You mean that's like a bad thing?
So we think what will happen is the In the water town, there'll be a lot of charity donation. In the Iron Brew town, they'll want the money back to buy more Iron Brew.
Bars to sign up. Well, I hope there's lots of kids in Girvan getting smartphones from Santa Claus this Christmas, because they're going to need them. Let's do one. Oh, you're right, there's no. Okay. One more question. Let's do one more question back there before we move on to the next stage.
You touched on your data. I presume that's your revenue model. Can you explain how you actually make money?
Okay, our revenue model is built around a cost for managing the system. Okay, at the moment we're working on 1 penny a bottle as one point of revenue. 2, we will own all of the data, which we'll be able to sell back to the drinks companies in an anonymised form. That's their real big thing that they're really interested in. At the moment, they know that you've bought that drink. They don't know when you consumed it. They don't know why you consumed it, and they don't know who you are. So those kind of things.
Tony, can I ask one last question? Back to my monopoly question later on. So, do you envisage a scenario where, if this gets to 1 pence per bottle, and there's 22 billion bottles, 220 million of revenue a year to you and your business, that sounds to me like a lot of money that the industry will leak out to one player. They're going to drive an agenda, hopefully, well, not for you, but hopefully for society, to have multiple players in that equation. So we'll be an open standard platform, the body collection. There'll be many people doing what you do behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Have you heard of anyone else doing what you're doing so far?
We know the main players in Europe, but they're not going down this route. They're not
So take
going.
the autogrow before he becomes rich and famous.
So they're not going down that route. They're going down. They still give out vouchers and their machines. Another reason for going down this scheme is an RVM machine costs about £50,000. We need about 50,000 of them in this country. Our scheme means that you don't have to put a lot of technology into the box. So an RVM for our scheme costs £10,000. So the setup costs reduce from about 2 billion down to about 300 million. So there's lots of advantages.
To that point, are you getting involved with the manufacturer then to do a co-branded product release on the hardware?
What we've said is we don't care what hardware that people want to choose to use. So if the Scottish government decide they're going to be using Tomra machines, fine. If the English government decides they want to use somebody else, we don't really mind. Because all we worry about is that they have to be able to read our code. And that's it. But before I go, the first person who can identify what this is to an old IT person will win a prize.
That's a real taker.
You win.
Well done, sir. Maybe the next speaker as well. Well done. Thank you, Tony. Big hand for Tony. Solving the world's problems. Number one. Thank you.